Hello, I'm Mark Humphries from Pinner Bridge Club, and I've put together a few training videos to share with you. These demonstrate the use of the EBUScore bridge scoring program, complete with BridgeMates, to complete the scoring of a pairs event at Pinner Bridge Club. I'm doing this to help train our scorers in the use of the program, since we're in the process of changing from our existing scoring program ScoreBridge to EBUScore. This is the first film in the series, and in it I'll be covering preliminary activity needed to create a new event, followed by how to specify the movement, and ending up with how to launch the BridgeMates. Later videos will cover two other elements of the process. To help guide us through the scoring process that we use at Pinner, I've prepared a two-page quick reference guide. This is shown on screen now, and there's a copy of this in the EBUScore folder of documents at the club, and it's also on our website. This document is our roadmap to help us through every step of the procedure. I recommend that until you're very familiar with using EBUScore, that you keep a copy of this to hand at all times as a checklist to guide you through the process. If you get stuck, the guide refers you to the relevant section of a more detailed manual called Scoring a Pairs Event that is also available to you. And the sections to refer to in that manual are shown on the right hand side here. That manual is also available on our website and in hard copy at the club. And my training videos will cover each step of the quick reference guide, and I will come back to it often as we progress through the material. So starting with the first stage in the process, I now want to demonstrate how to cover the steps in the quick reference guide under the preliminaries. If we look at the preliminaries, we'll note that stages 1 through to 3 are actually steps that are nothing to do whatsoever with the EBUScore program. So I'm not going to cover those in any detail, and I'll assume that you're already familiar with turning on the laptop, plugging in the speaker for the timer program and connecting the BridgeMate server. But what I do want to demonstrate are the steps necessary to create a new event and import the deal for a simple event such as those typically occurring at our club on most nights. Now, if you score events on Monday, where we sometimes play more than one section simultaneously, then there's a later video in this series that shows you how to run a multi-section event. But let's start showing you a simple session and simple section event and how to do that. So demonstrating the program. Stage 4 of the quick reference guide tells us to double click on the EBUScore pairs icon. So look at the desktop and make sure you get the right icon. At the time you come to do this, there may well be an EBUScore Teams icon available as well. Teams is a separate program, we don't want to use that, so make sure you choose the EBUScore pairs icon. Double click on it to open the program, and it brings you into the main menu. Now step 5 of the quick reference guide tells you to select pairs events. So we do that. When you do that, you come into the event history menu. This shows you the history of all the previous events that have been scored on that laptop. Now, step 6 of the quick reference guide tells you that we need to create a new event. So we can do that by clicking on the button down here, Create New Event, in the bottom left hand corner. And this opens the club event details screen. Now there's quite a bit of information on here that's already preset by default, but there are some things you do have to put in here. So let's start filling in the event details in the bottom left hand corner, which is really the only section of this we actually have to pay any attention to. So firstly we'd put in the event name. So typically we put in things like Wednesday pairs as our event name. The date of the event is already set by the computer, so you shouldn't have to touch that. Session will nearly always be 1. We don't run multiple session events. We do sometimes run multiple section events, but the session should always be 1, so that should never need to change. Section, for a normal event, section A is absolutely fine, and as I mentioned, on some occasions where we run multiple section events such as upstairs and downstairs simultaneously, I'll show you how to do that in a separate film, but for any normal session, let's put in section A, We put in the name of the director, so we'd type in, let's assume it's Lewis for this example, and Mark for score. That's absolutely fine. The other thing to check is the EBU Universal Membership System rate. That should normally be set here at 10 normal club session. There are times when you wouldn't use that. For gentle duplicate sessions on a Tuesday, there will be a different setting, and we'll advise the Tuesday scorers exactly what they're supposed to put in there. But nearly always you'd apply 10 normal club session, except for some certain simultaneous pairs events as well. So it's set at 10 normal club session. That's absolutely fine. We've got everything we need. If we need to change it, you could select that menu there, and that would tell you you can get some other options. But we're not going to choose any of those because this is the right option for nearly every event that we run. So I'm going to click on OK. Well, I would click on OK, but I'm not ready yet because I haven't finished step 8 of the quick reference guide, which is to import the deal. Now, the reason we do that is to import the details of the pre-dealt hands into the scoring program, so that when we upload at the end of the evening, we end up with records of the hands that have been played on the club website. So we need to do that. We click on Import Deal, and we have to click on Import Deal again. What then opens is a folder that contains all of the pre-dealt hands that are available on that PC. Here we're looking for a file for the 21st of November, so we look 18NOV021. This is exactly as we did this in for the use of ScoreBridge program. We had exactly the same kind of system. So we select that file, click on Open. That returns us back to this menu. We've now got that deal file listed in the list there, and we can click on OK. So now what we've done is we've completed the first section of the process under the heading of Preliminaries. We can return to OK, we can press OK, and that will take us back to the event menu. So following completion of the preliminaries, we now need to select the movement. So let's just look back at where we are in the process, referring again to our quick reference guide. So we need to cover steps 9 through to 14 of this quick reference guide. And again, if we get stuck, we can refer indeed to the detailed manual, section 2, section 2.1 up to 2.4. If we get stuck during any of these stages. I'm going to complete all of these as a single demonstration, and in that demonstration I'm going to cover two cases. I'm going to cover firstly the case where we have something like 5.5 tables and we'd prefer to play a Howl movement, and I'll also show you how to specify a Mitchell movement for a larger event with, say, 9.5 tables. That would cover most of the types of events that we normally cover at Pinner. Okay, so I'm going to jump to demonstrate exactly how to do that now in the program. So we go back to the program, and where we last left off was in the event menu. So if we now follow our quick reference guide, it tells us that we should select the movement, and it also tells us step 10 of the quick reference guide tells us to ensure that we've got club plus Mitchell selected in this list here. Now that's not compulsory, but what it does is it should make things easier, because it will restrict the choice of available movements to pre-programmed club recommended movements that I've already specified in EBUScore for us, and a normal range of Mitchell movements including standard, hesitation and skip versions. Okay, so let's start with the example of a 5.5 table event. And as before, the next stage in the process is to select the number of tables, and of course we round up any half tables. So we've got a 5.5 table event, so we'd round up to 6 tables. So let's do that. And a few options appear here. There's a few Mitchell options appearing at the top here. Now, if you actually went to the Pinner Club folder of recommended movements for 5.5 tables, you'll find that it's recommended we should look to play a 9-round 3/4 Howl movement, and it actually refers to that movement in our folder as as a movement called 11P6H. Now that movement has already been pre-programmed into EBUScore. I've done that already, so it becomes easier to select exactly that HOWL movement. So that's the one we want to play. How do we know that? Let's just check on a few more details. So one way to do that is by selecting print description. So if we do that, nothing's actually going to print out, but we get more information on screen. So we hit print description, and the description of that move appears on screen in a notepad file. It tells us it's 5.5 tables, 9 rounds. The name 11P6H, again, that refers to the specific code that's in the file of pinner recommended movements. That's if you looked up 5.5 tables, you'll find that move, that page for that move has got 11P6H listed as its code. So I've cross-referenced that to make it easy to make sure that we're picking the right movement. It tells you how to set the boards out. It tells you that if you've got a missing pair, it's best played as pair 1. So we'll remember that because we'll need to know that. And it really gives you lots of other information about that movement. So that's pretty good, pretty helpful to confirm that we've got the right move. Now, this isn't essential, but it's something I do recommend you do. It just helps you get familiar with the process. If you actually select this option here, print table card. Actually, let's before we do that, let's specify the missing pair, which was I think said as pair 1. Just go back to print description. Yeah, missing pair was pair 1. Okay. So we'll specify a missing pair of 1. Now we'll do what I was just about to say, which is to print the table cards. That's always worth doing because it just shows you how the bridge mates are going to run the movement for that event. So regardless of what's written down in folders and on paper, this is what the bridge mates are actually going to do. They're going to behave in this way. So if we hit print table cards, we'll see exactly what's going to happen here. And if we looked at that movement, we can find that corresponds exactly with the green cards that are in our folder of preferred movements for a 5.5 table HOWL. So when we get those table cards out, if we're using them, they would correspond exactly with the movement that the bridge mates are going to behave to. So we now know we've got the right movement. This is optional. You don't actually have to do that, but it's worth doing as a check, and it gets you familiar with the process. Okay, so that's just about everything to specify that movement. There's nothing else we would need to click on here. Things like arrow switch don't mean anything in relation to this. This is a HOWL movement. Lots of other menu options are grayed out anyway, so they're not available to us. So we would click on OK because we're happy with that, and we get just asked to confirm that that's the right movement. So please confirm the movement. 6 tables, 9 rounds of 3 boards 1 to 27 in play, and the missing pair is 1. And of course, if we were happy with that, we could confirm with the director and we'd click yes, and that would return us to the event menu, and then we'd move on to the next stage in the process. But I don't want to do that because I actually want to show you how to specify a Mitchell movement for a larger configuration of tables. So rather than click yes, I'm just going to click no. And let's now imagine that we've actually got a 9.5 table movement to specify. So again, 9.5 tables, we round up to 10, and we get some options here. Skip Mitchell, share and relay, or a hesitation Mitchell. Now again, if you look at our folder of recommended club movements for 9.5 tables, the recommended movement that we play is a 9-round skip Mitchell with 30 boards in play. Every pair plays 9 rounds. So let's click on the skip Mitchell, and that's exactly what appears here. Okay. Again, looking at our folder, first of all, that would tell us that when we play that preferred movement, the best arrangement is to have the missing pair as pair 20. So we specify the missing pair, that's east-west pair 10 is pair 20, it's the same. So we now specified the missing pair, we've got the right number of tables, rounds, boards. This is looking like the right movement. There's one thing that we do need to do though. Whenever we specify Mitchells in EBUScore, we need to make sure that we click on one winner Mitchell. That's because if we don't do that, the program will default to scoring the north-south field and the east-west field separately. We don't play it that way. We always like to have a single combined field So of course we have to specify one Win and Mitchell. Once we do that, of course we have to define the arrow switch. Now again, looking back at our folder for that 9.5 round Mitchell movement, the preferred way to play that at pinner is to arrow switch on the last 2 rounds. So we'd specify arrow switch on the last 2 rounds. And that's how you do it. So we've now got the movement specified. Again, just going through the things I showed you with the howl movement, we could print the description. Not particularly helpful here because these Mitchells, the descriptions are fairly generic and don't tell you very much at all. They're built to cover multiple cases with different numbers of tables, so it doesn't tell us very much at all. But you could always print the table cards, and that might show you more as well. So one thing that confirms again is that the arrow switch is properly set, because you can see here the last 2 rounds 8 and 9 the east-west would play as pair 1 would play as east-west on those, so the arrow switch is correctly set up. If you look in detail, you'll see that the skip is programmed into this as expected. The missing pair is pair 20, and that's really all you need to do, so you're very happy with that movement. Okay. So again, we'd click OK. So let's do that. And again, we get prompted just to confirm that the details are OK. So this time we're now happy. We check with the director and we click yes. And this will take us back to the event menu. Okay, so proceeding through the quick reference guide, we've completed the preliminaries, we've set the movement. We're now ready to go on to the next section, which is to launch the BridgeMate control software to initiate BridgeMate scoring. So let's just have a quick look where we are on the guide and look at what's required. So this is stage 3 of the quick reference guide process. It's the green boxes here, and we're going to complete stages 18 through to 22. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate. Now 22 is to start the bridge timer, so I'm not going to show you how to do that. That's obviously something that we do outside of EBUScore. We've been doing that, and that's the way we run our sessions at Pinner. Initiate the timer, and so I assume you know how to do that, and I'm not going to cover that anymore. Okay. So let me jump back to the program to show you how to initiate the BridgeMate scoring. So that's done by clicking on this box here, BridgeMate Scoring. That takes us into the BridgeMate Scoring window and under the Results tab. Now we have the option to go in to set the BridgeMate BCS options. We don't need to do that. They're already set up as defaults in the program, so there's no reason to go and change anything there. But the first step, if you follow the quick reference guide, first step we need to do, step 19, is to create the database. So we click on that button there. That now makes the Launch BCS tile available to us. So that button now becomes black rather than grayed out. So that's the one we're going to hit. But before we hit that, we just make sure that Reset Server here is ticked, and it is. Okay. So now what we're going to do is launch the BCS. And we get a prompt just to confirm that we're ready to launch the BridgeMates program. Now, if you remember, BridgeMates are controlled by a separate piece of software. It's nothing to do with ScoreBridge when we use ScoreBridge, and it's nothing to do with EBUScore when we run EBUScore, as we're showing you now. It's an independent piece of software that would run, and it's a window that you're very familiar with because you will have seen it before when you've run ScoreBridge to initiate a session. So when I click on yes, what would normally happen here is that we would start to run the BridgeMate control software. And you'll see the window for that program running when you do that for real. I haven't got that piece of software on this program, so I'm going to have to simulate doing that. But in the meantime, I'll show you yes, and then I'll show you what that window would look like. So we'll click on yes. Okay, so we've hit the launch BCS, and we've confirmed that we want to launch BridgeMate control software. And in any real case, you'd actually be seeing that BridgeMate control software running. I haven't got that on this PC, as I say, but that window that you'd see would look something like this. Okay, this window here is an example of it. It's a window you're probably very familiar with from when you've run the ScoreBridge program, which interfaces with BCS in roughly the same way. So this window would open up. These dots here on the left would turn from red to green as the bridge mates come into use and players start to enter their details. And normally what you do is you minimize that window by clicking on this bar here. Let it minimize, let it run along in the background. You're not really interested in it at all. So we'll do that. Okay. While it's minimized, you'd actually be on this screen in the EBUScore program. So I recommend that you stay on this screen. This screen would continue to monitor the progress of the event, and it's a good place to stay. What will happen is, as each round is completed, these rows here would turn to a blue color to start to show that the rounds have been completed, and that would help you know the progress of the scoring process through the evening. So you've now initiated the bridge mates. They've become live on the tables. People are starting to enter their details and will start to play and enter the results. So the only other thing you would normally do at this stage is to initiate the bridge timer, which is, as I've said before, that's a separate program. I'm not going to demonstrate that now, but you'd initiate the bridge timer, you'd go back to your seat and you'd start playing bridge. And then at some point you'd come back to have a look at this, check it's working okay, and possibly to monitor the player database. I'm going to show all that in the next video. So let's just jump back to recap to say where we are. So we've covered three main sections of the process. We haven't covered what to do if it's a Monday or a dual section event. On a Monday we run upstairs and downstairs, so we get those dual section events. That's the subject of the next video. But what I'd like to cover in the next films is to show you what to do during the play, where you can check the player database and deal with any visitors or make sure that the members are properly recorded. What to happen when you get to the end of the event and you check the scores and maybe need to perform some score corrections, and then finally what to do to upload, well, to generate the printed result and upload the results to both EBU and to BridgeWebs. That'll be the subject of a subsequent video. So in the meantime, hope you've enjoyed this film. If you've got questions or feedback, there's my email address there. Let me know how you feel about it, and let me know what's on your mind. Love to hear what you're thinking. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one, and bye bye now. Thanks.